Hi, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Vicky, and you are following my debt-free journey. So today, I will be talking about student loans. And if you follow me on Instagram, and if you don't, please click the link below. Feel free to follow me. I post almost every day on Instagram. I gotta get better with the stories, to be honest, but I will get there. I typically have an hour commute into San Francisco, and so I spend my train ride working on posts, commenting on posts. I'm really engaged in Instagram, love it there. And I also love it here, so feel free to subscribe and like this video. And I'd love to hear your comments down below and see where we can chat and talk about student loans, finance, and this debt-free journey. So with that, let's get on to the topic at hand. I wanted to share a little bit about my story with the American Education Services System, AES for acronym, and tell you a little bit about what happened to me. So just if you haven't followed my journey, I have a link below that talks about how I got into debt and where I am. But I had, when I graduated law school, $120,000 in student loan debt. Like, can you believe? And that actually included, I think, community college. Oh God. Undergrad for sure. And then law school. And not only was it the federal loans, but it was also private loans. And private loans is a separate topic altogether. But when I graduated law school in 2002, like most, I had that 6-month grace period and quickly realized I was not going to be able to afford these student loans in the aggregate, right? Like separately. And so I decided to consolidate. I got offered the consolidation, and in the 12, 13 years that I've been out of school, I have seen that loan bought by different companies. I believe at one point I was with Great Lakes. I was with something called XFS, I think, or Express Funding. I can't recall. But now I'm with AES. And I wasn't gazelle intense. I wasn't really looking to pay these off. I said probably what most Americans say is, hey, student loans are good debt, and I'll just have this for the rest of my life, for at least the next 30 years. I think my consolidation was a 30-year loan. I could be wrong about that. I actually haven't even inquired. I should call. But nonetheless, I don't even anticipate being in debt that long. I'm going to knock this out within a year, mark my words. So we are in November. By let's say December 2018, this student loan will be gone. This student loan, I will put the total amount here, but it's somewhere around $50,000. And so getting to my AES story. So if you follow me on Instagram, sorry, I got that squirrel derailed. If you follow me on Instagram, I did a story based on one of the followers there called the Broke Girl, and she talked about how she was paying extra on her student loan debt, not knowing that the extra was not going into principal. And so she looked at one of her statements, and she was saying that it said that she owed $18 for the month, and she knew that her student loan payment was $100 and something for the month. So when she called, she quickly realized that they put her in something called paid ahead status. So again, disclaimer, this is only, I can only speak to AES and my experience with AES, but when I called, I had 3 student loans in consolidation, and I wanted to pay off one of them. So one of them had a balance of $24,000, one had a balance of $26,000, and one had a balance of like $2,600. And I'm like, oh, I can pay $2,600 off. So that's what I was attacking first, as opposed to looking at it as just one chunk of a consolidation. So I called, and the first lady I got said, yeah, no problem. We could totally do that. So she was actually going to take the payment over the phone. I was so excited. And then she put me on hold and quickly realized, oh, this is a consolidation loan. Therefore, you have to write a letter asking to please separate this and put this payment into what they called loan sequence. And they gave me the number of the loan sequence. In this instance, it was called loan sequence 1. And they told me to make sure to tell them that I wanted to pay in full loan sequence 1 and not put it in paid ahead status. And at first I was like, really? I have to really write this? But whatever, okay. They told me how to get a certified check, go to my bank, get a certified check or money order, or I guess a personal check, but I chose certified, and mail it to a specific address, their paid in full address. So I did that. They said it should take about 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, I'm monitoring every day to see if they got my check. And after 2 weeks, I was not seeing it hit the website. So I called. The first lady I got on the phone said, gosh, I'm not seeing anything here. And I freaked out because it's a cashier's check. So I didn't even know if it was cashed or not. I kept my stub. So luckily I did do that. I kept all my receipts. But I didn't have any information when I called that first time. So I got off the phone. I was kind of started to get anxiety. I hadn't told my husband yet because I had celebrated that I paid off one of my student loans. I was so excited. I put it on Instagram. I told my family. I told my husband. And so quickly I was freaking out thinking, oh my gosh, they lost my money. So then I called back again with all the details. I had my not the canceled check, but I had the receipt of the cashier's check. I had my letter because they asked me, what date did I send it? I had done it, return receipt requested through the postal service. So I had the date that they actually received it. Because of the tracking, I actually knew who signed for it. So word to the wise, it's worth the $23.50 or $23 whatever for express mail. And I didn't know this, but if you pay the $23.95, whatever the fee is, and they don't deliver it by the next business day by 12, they actually refund your money. You bring them back your receipt and the postal service will refund your money. I mean, if you think about it, they're in competition with FedEx and UPS, so it makes sense. I actually did that once. I send everything that way, anything important, and I have gotten refunds from the United States Postal Service. So that's a side tip. Back to the story at hand. So in that, I had all my details, and the lady was able to, we quickly realized that I was supposed to put the account number on the memo field, and I failed to do that. And the reason I failed to do that was every time I called in to AES, you had 2 options. You could either log in with or put in to identify yourself, put in your account number or put in your social security number. So I always used my social security number and never even thought to put my account number on that check. So that was my mistake. I put my social security number on it. And so what I said to the lady after she found it based on the check number, I think it was based on the check number and the amount. If they have somewhere where they don't know where to apply the check, they still cash it. By the way, they take your money. They just don't apply it anywhere. And so it sits in this reserve fund. And this is what this lady told me. So she, with the check number and the amount, the exact amount, they were able to find it. And then she brought up the image and she's like, oh, you didn't put in the account number. I'm like, but you see my social security number right there. It's really a no-brainer. That's how I identify myself when I call your system. And she's like, that's not how it works. Okay. So she said what I needed to do was go to my bank, get a copy of the canceled check, front and back, and then she put me on hold and she was able to get me a fax number where I could fax the letter. Because at this point I was thinking, oh my gosh, do I have to mail it? I think it was a Friday, so I was kind of freaking out that I was going to have the weekend to have anxiety over this. I had to mail it, wait for them to receive it, wait for them to process it. Even though they already had my money, it was still going to take a 10-day period. And so she was able to give me a fax number. So that's what I did. I ran quickly over. My husband and my baby were napping and I just left the house. I got that canceled check even I bank with Wells Fargo, they're like, I've never heard of this before, but okay. The lady had to figure out how to even get a copy of a canceled cashier's check. And so she did that for me. I went over to, I didn't have a fax machine and I couldn't scan it. So I went over to like a UPS store. They faxed it for me. I got the confirmation. I came back. I called again and had it all documented. Okay, they said it should take 2 to 5 business days for them to receive the fax, which is just mind-boggling. Okay. I wait those 2 days. I call back again. And this time, the rep that I got on the phone, and mind you, I'm getting the new reps, right, who answer the first initial call. The first rep that answers the call says to me, I give her the spiel of everything I just told you guys. And she's like, oh, you're going to have to stop payment on that check. And I'm thinking this girl does not have a brain because I just told her that I had sent a copy of the canceled check. So there's no way for me to stop payment on a check that's already been cashed. Right then and there, I just kind of stopped the call. And I said, I know that this has nothing to do with you. And I'm not mad at you. But at this point, I've now called in like 3 times. And I think at this point, it requires you to escalate this to a supervisor. I'm like, so I'm asking respectfully, could you please escalate this and put me on hold? And she was a little annoyed with me, but what could she do? I was being very respectful. I was not mad. And I got another lady. This lady was amazing. I believe her name was Beverly. I don't have my notes in front of me or I would show you, but Beverly, let's just call her Beverly. Beverly was able to quickly look in the notes, not only see the letter I had sent initially with the cashier's check, she was also able to see my fax letter and everything I wrote. And she said, we received, we've gotten everything. I received your fax. She's like, they are going to apply this and make sure that, she gave me some tips, like make sure, because of the days of the differences, the interest was going to be off and I was going to probably have a credit. And she's like, my best advice to you is just get a credit refund. Have them cut you a check for that difference. She's like, the way we are here, it's going to take forever to see that credit put towards another loan. I'm like, wow, this just is so archaic. She's like, unfortunately, the department that actually applies this to your actual student loan debt is a different department that I'm not part of. She's like, and honestly, it takes them forever. She's like, it'll eventually get applied correctly. So it was showing that they received my money. It was showing now that it was part of my account, but it wasn't applied. So when I would log into AES, it was still showing that I owed $2,600 on that loan. And it showed that I made a payment of $2,600 for the overall account. And that's not how I wanted it. I wanted to pay off the student loan. So Beverly said, wait a couple weeks, call back. I'm like, oh my gosh. I think I started this process, guys, in like September. I'd have to look. But it took, or August, late August. It took all of September. No, it took all of October and part of September. So I think at the beginning of September, I sent in the payment. It took so long. In conclusion, my tips and advice to you, if you're dealing with AES, is if you're planning on putting this in your debt snowball and wanting to attack this and throw extra money at the principal, they are set up to not let you do that. They will keep your money in this reserve pool and you're still accruing interest. So that's tip number 1, is to call ahead and ask them to please take off the paid ahead status. You can do this over the phone. And a couple of the followers on Instagram, I actually got this tip from them. So do that, call them. The second thing to do is, as much as you may want to separate your loans, take it from me, and it might not be easier to do that. Just attack it as one debt And if you've taken off that paid ahead status, you're going to be throwing money into the principal. I and my husband and I have chosen to not have the student loans as our next snowball debt. So I'm not there just yet, but we will be there in a year. And thirdly, if you could get out of this AES altogether and, I don't know, consolidate out or try to get rid of it as fast as you can, that would be my advice. Don't consolidate with AES. They are horrible. And I realize I didn't have a choice. AES bought my loan from somebody else. But if you see AES, I would say run for the hills. Anyway, that's my tip. That's my story. I wanted to share that with you because I didn't know about this paid ahead status. And I thought if you sent extra money that it would just go towards the smallest debt or pay it off when you ask them to pay it off and put it in specific terms. But in any event, if you found this interesting, if you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions for me, please leave me a comment down below. I'm really good about responding. And, let's kick this debt and student loans, out of here, right? So if you're looking for more content like this, please join me on my debt-free journey, either on Instagram or here. Bye.